okay? I'm here. I'm here. It's been a while since you've had one of those nightmares. Tell me, what was it about?
It's only fragments. Nothing's clear. You've been fighting the Harkonnens for decades.
Look!
My family's been fighting them for centuries.
Your blood comes from dukes and great houses. Here, we're equal. What we do for the benefit of all.
Well, I'd very much like to be equal to you.
Maybe I'll show you the way.
Deal with this prophet. Send assassins.
Feyd-Rautha, he's psychotic.
I see possible futures all at once. And in so many futures, our enemies prevail. But I do see a way. There is a narrow way through. My allegiance is to you. Do you believe me?
This is a form of power that our world has not yet seen. The ultimate power.
I want you to know I will love you as long as I breathe.
You will never lose me as long as you stay who you are.
Consider what you're about to do, Paul Atreides.
Silence!
This prophecy is how they enslave us! You are not prepared for what is to come.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. They dropped a brand new Dune Part 2 trailer, so we'll break it all down. There's a bunch of brand new footage, and the director, Denis Villeneuve, has talked about doing the third movie, which will be based on Dune Messiah, which is just like the next book in the series. So we'll explain what's going on with that. There's a couple more books that they can actually adapt in the movies before things really start to get weird, and I don't know if they would continue as movies or eventually just shift it to a long-running TV series. But if you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. They also bumped up the release date, so now it's coming out at the beginning of March, so we won't have to wait quite as long. And for the most part, the director's also corroborated this, but he feels like this movie, and this kind of bears out in the trailer, is a much more action-heavy movie than the first movie, which is way more contemplative. Basically starting with a giant battle that Paul sees in one of his dreams. And you see this giant explosion. The other thing too is when they start the trailer here in his dream and you see the explosion is that you see what looks like a giant bubble of water coming from the ground, which is foreshadowing for what will eventually happen to Arrakis. All the water in their sieges that they've been storing in those underground tanks essentially. Basically foreshadowing Arrakis eventually becoming a very green paradise, no longer a desert, which is also very deadly consequently to the worms, which are critical to the spice. So even though normally you would be really happy that Arrakis would turn into this green, lush paradise, it presents a huge problem for the universe, especially development, because if you can't travel around the universe using spice, it slows everything to a crawl. And within the lore of Dune, there's really only like a few people that can actually travel around the universe without guild navigators and spice. Then he wakes up from the dream with Chani, telling her about it, basically about one of the ways that he's seen, talking about the way through this upcoming conflict with the Emperor and the Harkonnens. He talks about this later in the trailer when he talks about seeing a path through all this. That's the whole idea with his powers as the Kwisatz Haderach. The term literally translates to a shortening of the way. Part of the idea is that he can see all potential futures, so if he can learn to fully use his abilities, he can actually literally just see the potential timeline, like Doctor Strange Avengers Infinity War style, that could lead them through this, like the 1 in 14 million chance where they could actually make it through this. A little bit of that successful path through this that they'll have to take also comes from the princess, played by Florence Pugh. She becomes a much bigger character during this, like they teased her in all the previous trailers, but she's much more present on Arrakis and in the story in this trailer. When she tells Paul that it's been a while since you've had one of those dreams, the idea is that a little bit of time has gone by. He's been living with her in this relationship for a while. We get a really quick montage as he's telling her about his dream. Probably the most notable thing during this is them holding the water of life, this blue fluid. It's basically the bile of the young sandworms. It does a number of things, mostly fully awakening the powers inside of him, but it's also taken by new Reverend Mothers awakening their powers as well too. Part of the idea is that when his mother, Lady Jessica, and Paul join the Fremen, she becomes their new Reverend Mother and takes the waters of life herself. There were some teasers for that during the first movie, where he's sort of seeing the future and seeing her with all those tattoos over her face as the new Reverend Mother. You see him using a thumper, summoning one of the sandworms. This is him training all the Fremen in their Atreides fighting techniques to give them an edge against the Harkonnen troops and the Emperor Sardaukar troops. Then we see the princess, played by Florence Pugh. This is actually a flash from the final battle that they have against the Emperor's throne ship. It'd be really interesting to see Denis Villeneuve's vision of all the Emperor's stuff inside his new vision of the Dune movie. A lot of his design language inside the first Dune movie was based on a lot of the original concept art for Frank Herbert's version of Dune. Then he sees a vision of Austin Butler as Feyd in what looks like just a random scene, like he doesn't look like he's wearing his military uniform. There's another flash of what looks like the final battle with the Fremen charging against the Sardaukar and the Harkonnen troops and the Emperor's throne ship. When he says nothing's clear touching the sand, he's trying to find the potential path that they could take that will allow them to win this upcoming conflict. Then I think in this voiceover, he's still talking to Chani, saying that you fought the Harkonnens for decades, my family's fought them for centuries. That is true, like they've been fighting for hundreds and hundreds of years, even longer than that. I think I talked about this in previous videos, but like in the history of Dune, like the thousands of years of history in Dune, the bitter enmity between House Harkonnen and House Atreides actually started during one of those original major battles where I believe House Atreides accused the Baron of House Harkonnen at the time of cowardice. Then it became this big feud between their two houses that lasted for thousands of years, with each house going after each other, killing a bunch of people on both sides up to present day. So even though it seems like there was a lot of backstabbing that happened during the events of the first Dune movie, stuff like that has been happening between their houses for thousands of years. But in the scene with the voiceover, they're actually cutting some footage of the Fremen attacking one of the Harkonnens' spice harvester ships. One of the really notable things is they give Chani way more action scenes during this than they have in previous versions of Dune on screen. When the first movie came out, a lot of people were asking about that. Like, Chani wasn't really in that movie. She didn't really show up till like the very end. And he basically explained that same thing. Like, well, she's not really a big part of the story until like the next movie, where she becomes a very, very big part of things. When she says your blood comes from Dukes, obviously they show the burning picture of his father, Leto Atreides, and his mother, but there's a lot of symbolism here when they show his mother as the new Reverend Mother of the Fremen. That's a big thing all by itself, like her just becoming the new Reverend Mother, obviously a huge deal. But on top of that, because of the whole Bene Gesserit plot to bring about the Kwisatz Haderach, this whole breeding program that they have, his mother is also secretly the Baron's daughter. So he also has the blood of Baron Harkonnen running in his veins. They kind of alluded to this during the events of the first movie, but Jessica's mother is actually Reverend Mother Mohiam. They don't really get into it during this trailer, but they do have that Dune TV series that they're doing on HBO. Like, HBO is basically doing what they're calling Dune Prophecy, which is meant to be a prequel to the events of the first movie, all about the Bene Gesserit in their secret plan to bring about the Kwisatz Haderach, this breeding program of theirs. We get a quick flash of Stilgar and the Fremen waiting for something. This actually seems like a flash of what the final battle is going to be between Paul and Feyd. One more time, Chani references the way, quote unquote, like the whole idea that Kwisatz Haderach means a shortening of the way. There are a couple big fight scenes from what look like the big final battle. We get a little bit more voiceover from Emperor Carino, played by Christopher Walken, talking to his daughter, the princess, telling her to deal with Paul Atreides. He basically tells her to send assassins after him, and she comes up with the idea to send Feyd. We get a little bit more scenes of him on Gadi Prime in what look like the gladiator pits getting ready to fight someone. Then he talks to Chani about seeing all these possible futures all at once. It's all just part of his powers as the Kwisatz Haderach, seeing a way through this essentially. And a lot of it comes to a compromise between him, the Harkonnens, and the Emperor. We get another quick flash of what looks like the final battle and Gurney Halleck leading a bunch of Fremen against a big revenge fight against Rabban Harkonnen for the events of the first movie. Good old-fashioned revenge. When he says he does see a potential way through this, they show a quick scene of them leading a bunch of sandworms against the Sardaukar troops. There was a speedrun version of this during the David Lynch version of the movie, but that sort of jam-packed the events of the entire book into a single movie. Basically, they cause all the sandworms to attack the shield wall all at the same time. This looks like it's still on Gati Prime. They haven't fully revealed what all the ships look like in Dune, so I'm not sure which ship this is that's actually trying to land on Dune. It might be the Emperor's ship. This is Paul going to meet his mother with a bunch of other Reverend Mothers near her. Then we get Reverend Mother Mohiam talking to the princess about Paul Atreides' Kwisatz Haderach powers, trying to explain why he's so dangerous. All these scenes of them attacking the shield wall look like they are from the final battle. There are a bunch more scenes of them attacking the spice ships. This looks like more of the Harkonnens trying to attack the Fremen inside their sieges. This looks like it's actually from the final battle because you have all the Fremen here with Reverend Mother Mohiam and like pretty much everybody else crowded around this center here. And he basically successfully uses the voice against her, just showing how powerful he's become, where he barely was able to use the voice against his mother during the beginning of the first movie. This just seems like it comes before the final battle where he's getting ready to lead all the Fremen against them. This scene with the giant sandstorm coming to the city just seems like them leading the sandworms to the city to break the shield wall. And like I said, just very action-heavy trailer because the entire movie is just way more action-heavy. There's a bunch of stuff going on in this trailer, like it's a long trailer to begin with, but there's just so much plot packed into here, so much lore. So if there's anything you spot in the trailer that I didn't talk about during the video, just write it below in the comments, or any big questions you have about what's going on. I think depending on how Dune Part 2 does, they will greenlight Part 3, and that will basically be the events of Dune Messiah, and they'll probably just do it as one movie. Then they probably try to do Children of Dune as a movie, and then like I said, after that, once they get to God Emperor Dune, that's when they might try to pivot to a long-running TV series, depending on how long this Dune Prophecy HBO series winds up running. There's a bunch of big stuff coming up. I've already done videos on the other Dune Part 2 trailers, so I'll post links for those in the description below. Everyone click here for my new House of the Dragon Season 2 trailer video with a whole bunch of footage, and click here for my brand new Deadpool 3 Wolverine video with a whole bunch of footage. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.